quite simple. If you think about our traditional system of higher education, we are very much fixated on seat time and credit hours. So time is the most essential unit of learning. Competency-based education really turns that on its head and says that instead of learning being variable, learning is fixed and time is variable and pacing is flexible. So students can take as much time as they need in order to achieve a certain competency, and it's only once they've achieved that competency can they move on to the next. It's very different from our sort of traditional factory-based model of teaching, where usually you have large batches of students trying to move on in an efficient way to the next level, but we don't really take into account whether the student has actually mastered that learning.
Competency-based learning is basically a modern version of something that's been around for a long, long time. So people have known it by other names: proficiency-based learning, mastery-based learning, but it goes back thousands of years. It actually was the crux of how the apprenticeship model actually worked, is where somebody learned something, demonstrated they knew that, and then were able to move on. The current model we have in education, and people actually think is our quote-unquote traditional model, is actually an innovation. The kind of industrial factory model that operates on an agrarian calendar trying to meet the needs of the information age is a new thing. It's really only a couple hundred years old. And so the competency-based model actually predates that. But we're calling it CBE, or competency-based education now, to talk about this notion of people progressing as they learn.
The heart of the matter really goes back to the definition itself. And that is, instead of saying to a student, you need to take 20 courses to get this degree, you say to a student, you need to master these 87 competencies. So instead of going through a progression of courses and completing those, you go through a succession of demonstrating your mastery of competency-based education. So I think the best models really break down what we would normally think of as semester credit hours. Like a 3-hour course is really broken down into, well, what are the competencies that we expect a student to master inside that 3-hour course, and then have the student demonstrate the mastery of those competencies.